So, extract from my story, A Wartime Girl's Diary, from 1940 to 1941, by Vince Cross. During the Second World War, in cities in the UK, there was a blackout. This meant that no lights should be showing in the houses or streets. This was so that the German bomber planes would have more difficulty finding the big cities. Read about Eddie's experience. The strangest thing happened yesterday. Really frightening. It's getting darker, slightly earlier again now, and when I went to bed at about 9 o'clock, there wasn't enough light to read. Shell needed to take off her war paint, and we had 2 candles lit in the room, so we could both just about see without having the electric on. Anyway, we mustn't have drawn the curtains properly, because 5 minutes later, there's a huge knock on the door like the world's coming to an end, and when Mum answers it, she finds a policeman on the doorstep, making a fuss. Then he elbows his way past her into the house, saying someone's signalling to the Germans. Mum tells him, as politely as she can, that he must be off his rocker, but he demands to see our room and waltzes upstairs to give us a right bawling out, shouting, "Didn't we know there was a blackout, and were we on Jerry's side?" Shell was completely shocked and embarrassed, and I cowered under the eiderdown. Okay, now I highlighted these words just because they are colloquialisms or slang terms or things that you might not know. These are often used in a diary, so you don't use them in formal language. Off his rocker, what does that mean? Yeah, so it means that he's acting crazy. Waltzes, now a waltz is a type of dance. Okay, so he's just waltzed upstairs. He's not listening to anyone. He's concentrating on moving in one direction only. Bawling, shouting and screaming, good. Now I also highlighted Jerry. That was a term used in the Second World War against the Germans. I guess it's short for German, Jerry, okay? Even though it's spelled with a J and German is spelled with a G. Coward means he's hiding, yeah, under the eiderdown. Now I said an eider is a type of bird. Let's just see if I have the picture. I have the picture up somewhere to show you. This is the bird, okay, and the feathers from this bird are apparently very soft, so they are used in pillows and blankets. So that's what the eiderdown is. So this is now Tuesday, 6th of August. This was 2nd, so it's 4 days later. Right. So I'll read this and then I'll ask one of you to read. Tuesday, 6th of August. Ever since Shell and I had our spot of bother last week, Mum's been flapping about the blackout. She checks our room every evening and makes us pin up spare blankets round the window. As far as the blackout goes, there's good news and bad news. You'd be surprised at the number of accidents that happen because no one can see anything in the dark. Last week in Dad's local paper, I read that someone was killed falling off a railway platform in Bromley. And just down the road, old Annie Makins toppled off the curb one night and broke her ankle. Poor thing. In some places, they're painting the curbs white and even putting a white band round post boxes so that you don't walk into them. But they haven't got to Summerfield Road yet. The good news? You should just see the stars. In the old days before the war, they were always hidden by streetlights. Now, on clear evenings, the sky's jet black and covered with millions of sparkly diamonds. You can even see the Milky Way stretching across like a kind of gauzy scarf. This is the curb, and obviously because of the blackout, a lot of people are tripping over this because they can't see where they're going in the story. I don't know whether you can see, but it's got like gaps in it. So you can, yeah, like if you have wool, you can see there's holes in the material, okay? So, yeah, so it's, I think it's all the stars which are causing the gauze in the Milky Way. What were Eddie and Shell using for light? They were using candles. Good. Next question. So who answered the door to the policeman? Their mum answered the door to the policeman. So what did Eddie do when the policeman came in? He cowered under the eiderdown. Or you can just say he hid under the blanket. You don't have to say it exactly the same. So what did Eddie read about in the local newspaper? Last week in Dad's local newspaper, I read about someone who was killed falling off a railway platform in Bromley. Okay, so you'd write that in this part. Who broke their ankle falling off the curb? Who broke that? Yes, old Annie Makins. So Annie Makins fell from the curb and broke her ankle. What did they do to the post boxes? Yeah, they painted white bands, or they put a white band, beg your pardon, round post boxes so that you can see them more clearly. Yes, what are the good points of the blackout? That's right, you can see the stars much more clearer, so you have a beautiful night sky. The other one, I suppose you could mention, is it hides the cities from the German bombers. Yeah. What are the bad points? People are getting into accidents more easily. I suppose another bad point you could mention from the first day that we read was that you can't see properly, you can't read at night. Inference questions, that means there's no direct answer. Who is Shirl? How do you know? Shirl is a sister. Well, Shirl seems to be a different person to the mum, so Shirley can't be his mum, her mum, sorry, Edie's mum. And they seem to be sharing a room together, so it seems likely they are sisters. Yeah. How does mum feel about the policeman telling them off for breaking the blackout? She feels embarrassed. I guess it says Shirl felt embarrassed, but here you could say that she feels embarrassed or angry, maybe. Frustrated, because it says here that she's flapping about the blackout, so now she's nervous. Why does mum make them pin up blankets round the window? So that there is no light coming out from the room, from candles or even electricity, although they shouldn't really be using the electricity. How do you know that this extract is a diary? Okay, so if I hadn't told you, and it says at the beginning that it's from a diary here, but if I hadn't told you, how would you know that this is a diary? It's the date at the top, okay, and it's written in the past tense. We have verbs like lit, so they're all in the past, and then there's informal language like off his rocker, which demonstrates that it's a diary. Copy the phrases the author uses to describe the following. The stars. So can anyone remember what was said about the stars? She describes them as sparkly diamonds. This is a metaphor. They're not literally sparkly diamonds, but they light up the sky like sparkly diamonds, okay? So how is the Milky Way described? That's right. So it's a gauzy scarf. So that's how the Milky Way is described. What does the phrase off his rocker mean? We discussed this. What does it mean? Yes. So he's out of his mind, he's crazy, he's acting like a wild animal or weird, yeah.